I've asked a few friendly faces to join me for the demo. We've got Scott and Lucy on screen who have joined this session as students, so we can show you how the Bird's Eye functionality works. I think the really exciting thing about Bird's Eye is that it opens up new interaction modes to help make online group tutoring even more engaging. So without further ado, let's jump into a demo to show you how it works. So you can see on my screen now the familiar Bramble notebook view, and I can of course upload any resource I like into this view, and then we can work on this resource together. So I've actually asked Scott and Lucy to use a different pen color each for this demo. So Scott's going to be using the blue pen and Lucy's going to be using the red pen. So this normal view enables us to work on a resource all together. So I might bring something in as a tutor that I want us as a whole group to look at. But what if I want each student to work on the same question, but separately? That's where Bird's Eye comes in. So if I move on to a new page here, to activate Bird's Eye, I simply click the info panel icon here, and this will pop up the info panel, and I can choose to activate Bird's Eye mode. When I do this, you'll see the markings crop up on the screen to separate the page into the 4 quadrants that we can use for Bird's Eye. I can then upload the resource I want the students to work on, upload it as many times as I like for as many students as in the session, in this case 2. Then I simply go back to the info panel and assign the students, Lucy's in here as help, to each of their quadrants. Put Lucy in quadrant 1 and Scott in quadrant 2. So now they can both start doing their workings out in their own quadrant. And Lucy, who's working over here, cannot see what Scott is doing over here. So they're both able to do their own independent work, yet I, as the tutor, have a bird's eye view of what they're working on. So I'm able either to offer them help from this bird's eye view, I can add annotations or circle bits and pieces, or I can even jump into one of their quadrants. So let's say I wanted to join Lucy, I can jump into quadrant 1, and I've now got that full screen and can start adding annotations in here as well. If I want to jump and see what Scott's working on, I simply move myself into the second quadrant and we're over here. And then I can go back to the bird's eye view whenever I like to get that overview of what they're working on. So this is a really nice way of giving the students their own independent space to work on, whilst you can keep track of exactly what they're doing. If one of the students finishes early, let's say Scott's running a bit ahead, I can actually transfer him into Lucy's quadrant and ask him to help her out. So I can see now that they're both in quadrant 1 and able to work together in that quadrant. So you can see Lucy typing in the red text, and you might be able to see Scott drawing with the blue pen. So that introduces a nice additional dynamic that you can use in your tutoring sessions. But I think what's really exciting about Bird's Eye is just how flexible it is. So rather than having the students all working on the same resource, I could load a different resource into each quadrant. So to turn to a new page, I first need to exit Bird's Eye. So I come here and just untick the box, and then I can move us onto a new page, and I can choose to activate Bird's Eye mode, and that will put everyone back into their quadrants. So let's move Scott back into quadrant 2. And then this time, rather than adding the same resource to each quadrant, I can add a different one. So if I pull in this plant cell first and then follow it with the animal cell, then the plant cell is going to appear in the top left for Lucy to work on, and the animal cell will appear in the top right for Scott to work on. And they can both start adding their annotations on top of the diagrams. So you're able to split the students up and have them looking at slightly different content. So I think it gets even more interesting when you start playing with this idea that students can only see part of the picture. So one way of doing this is loading a different resource into each quadrant. But what we can also do is actually just load a single resource in and have the students working on different parts of it. So remember, Lucy's working up here in the top left, and Scott's over in the top right here. If I want to see what they can see, I simply jump into their quadrant with them. So this is what Lucy can currently see and is working on. And if I jump into quadrant 2, I'll be able to see what Scott can see. And we can come out to that bird's eye view and see both of them working. Similarly, I can bring the students out to that bird's eye view so they can see the bigger picture as well. So that's a quick overview of how bird's eye works. And we really can't wait to see how you make use of it to make your online tutoring even better.